Hello you dirty frogs and welcome back to another video on the channel. It's me, the evil frogman, and the gameplay you're watching right now, believe it or not, is on an earlier version of the build I'm going to show you today, if that gives you any indicator of just how powerful it is. Also, I am recording this at 7 AM, so if you hear any birds in the background, just know the early bird catches the worm. Today I'm going to be going over my card master cache build. Now, first and foremost, I was going to do a red tree cache build, but if I'm being honest, I really don't enjoy using the action skill. It's insanely powerful, but it just doesn't feel too good for me right now, and I'm pretty sure some of the inputs are kind of bugged on it, so I'm going to wait until there's maybe some improvements there. And in terms of this being a Blue Tree build, I will say that while I do enjoy Blue Tree, I didn't want to go for a build where you're just solely using cards. I wanted to give people more classic gameplay of using their guns a lot, so this is more of a build where the cards are used as a method of amping up the player, and then you swap back to your gun and just absolutely wreck stuff. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do, leave a like on it because it does help us in the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so before we get into this build, let's go over some of the key rules about cache. First of all is going to be fortune stacks. Fortune stacks are the cornerstone of everything cache does because a lot of skills rely on it. You will often see skills that will say they are a fortune skill and they require stacks in order to proc. You may also see stuff like Windfall in the Vault Hunter trait, which uses fortune stacks to greatly buff up cache whenever you proc it. Both of these are good, but one thing you're not going to see me doing in this build is stressing about when I have Windfall active versus when I don't. My rule of thumb is that if it happens, it happens, and I'm happy, but I made it so that this build is powerful enough to where you don't need to proc Windfall, because I think for the casual player it's a little bit too much thinking, and Borderlands players don't like to think. Come on, let's be honest. So we'll start off with the skill tree here, which we don't do often, and I'm going to kind of break down cache for you, and hopefully it allows you to learn about the Vault Hunter as well, because we're all learning about cache because he's only just come out. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about the ground rules of sleight of hand. The way that sleight of hand works is that every time you add an augment into it, you add another card to the deck, and every time that you proc sleight of hand, it has a random chance to take one of those cards. Now, I'll keep it very simple for you so it's easy to understand. The more cards you add, the harder it's going to be to lock in on what you want to do with the build. Now, when we take a look at the different cards in the Blue Tree, the actual cards that are going to benefit us in combat is not going to be stuff like Novas, because we're not going to be able to Nova a Backhive and kill Backhive with a Nova very easily, so it's not worth trying to build into that. And we certainly don't care about action skill cooldown rate, because once we're powerful enough to kill the boss is already dead, so it doesn't really matter if we get our action skill back, and right now there's not enough mobbing in the game to justify this either. Cowboy is really cool, but again, this doesn't actually do much for us other than what it says on the card, and that's not going to help us for the style of build we're going for. Bed on Red is really cool, but again, it's not going to do much for us in a boss fight. And Furious Fingers is also really cool as well. However, this isn't going to really help us for our guns. So what we actually have that's going to help us is Dead Man's Hand, which is going to debuff enemies, and even this you can skip out on if you want. And the main one, which is our main damage dealer, is Sweeten the Pot, which is the rainbow card, which is going to hit an enemy, deal a random element, and then our guns will deal a bonus element of that damage type for 16 seconds. This is what we want to pull the majority of the time. So why don't we take the other augments and worry about getting the other augment slots? Well, because it would just dilute the pool and make our build less efficient, and it's more thinking during combat. We don't want to have to think. We want to open our deck up, and if we see the rainbow card, we throw it. If we see the white card, we throw it, cancel the action skill, and get to shooting. That is what this build is all about. It's easy to track in combat because, believe it or not, cache has a lot of moving parts that for a new player can be very confusing. So I don't want to try and sap your time in this video more than I have to. Here is the Blue Tree. I'm not going to go through every skill in here, but there is one I will break down. I don't have any extra points here that are going to confuse you. You do 5 here, 5 here, 1 here, 4 here, 1 here, 5 here, 1 here, and 5 here. Okay, so feel free to just copy that down into your game. And before we move on to the red tree, let's explain something very important with this tree. Yes, we could go with Go for Broke, which would gain us additional fortune stacks and help this stack faster. However, the most overpowered skill in this tree by far is the tier 1 alchemy skill, which gives us fortune whenever we apply a status effect. So this doesn't even have a cooldown from what I can see, and this means that when we apply status effects, we will basically get maximum stacks of fortune. So you're basically always going to have your fortune up with this skill. Okay, now into the red tree here, and we have 5 in Unleashed, 5 in your Huckleberry, 5 in Stand and Bleed, 5 into Brimstone, 5 into Lawless, and 3 into War Wagon. The most important skill in this build and in this red tree is by far War Wagon, because it's going to give us infinite ammo. I cannot stress that enough. Do not skip this skill. Into our specializations, we have the best defense, Riddle You This, I Am a Gun, and Bullet Train. This is pretty typical. You can run this in most builds. In a nutshell, the best defense is free damage. Riddle You This is free damage. I Am a Gun is really nice to have, and also Bullet Train is free damage. So pretty simple, easy to follow specialization setup here. And finally, into our items. I have a lot of items on here, but I'm not using any of these really. You can use many guns on this build, but there's only one that I'm relying on, and it's the Scoot and Shoot pistol specifically. And please don't forget this. Try to get sticky magazine, and you must get the Ripper licensed magazine. The reason why is because Ripper licensed magazine will not only make this gun fully automatic, but also is going to be key for laying down tons of shots extremely quick. This gun can also roll Jacobs with Ripper and stickies. I have not found one in my countless hours of farming, so I'm not going to tell you to get one either. When I release a more min-max version of this in the future perhaps, then I might suggest that, but for now, this is a pretty easy to get roll. Into the rep kit, we are using the War Paint because it is still to date the best rep kit in the game for damage. It gives you 30% fire rate, which is damage, and 30% movement speed, which is huge. Try to get the speed augment if you can and put the high caliber firmware on it. Into our ordnance slot, this literally does not matter, but I've gone with a crit knife. You can also use the new bismuth tip blade if you want. It really doesn't matter. In my honest opinion, using ordnance with this build, if you're not an experienced player, is going to give you too many keybinds to worry about micromanaging, and it is going to confuse you and mess you up. So if you think that's the case, don't worry about your ordnance. Don't even bother pulling it out. Just put high cal on it, so we have 2 into high cal. For your enhancement, go with something that either has a Ripper enhancement or a Jacobs enhancement, and try to get gun damage and gun crit damage on it. It doesn't matter if you go Ripper or Jacobs. In my opinion, it is personal preference. However, this is the one that I have on for now, and it works fine because this build is insane as it is. For your shield, you have 2 choices here. I personally use the Honey Badger because it makes killing yourself with this weapon really, really, really difficult because it does do self-damage. However, if you want to prioritize damage over survivability, go with the What's for Dinner, the tried and tested What's for Dinner. I don't, because I don't need it, and I don't think we need to min-max a build for new players to cash when all it's going to do is confuse them and waste their time trying to farm it. The Honey Badger is way easier to get in a good roll than the What's for Dinner right now, so that's why I'm also deciding to run it. And I didn't mention before, but we want to go Deadeye here, Deadeye here. It doesn't really matter where you have your firmware, to be honest. Just get 3 Deadeye. And lastly, for the class mod, this is going to really, really suck to farm, but I did just release a guide on farming Nightmare Rifts on the channel, so go and check that out. This is the Gamer class mod, and we want the Gamer class mod specifically to roll either Tender Hearts or Potent Posse. The reason why is because if we go into the blue tree, Tender Hearts will give us increased crit damage, and if Windfall is active, we'll gain a chance to critically hit with action skills, which that part's really not important. It's mainly just the extra crit damage is really nice. And Potent Posse is extremely good because it gives us more gun damage every time we have fortune stacks. You know, we get a bigger bonus there, so that's really cool as well. And then for your passives, the fire rate is fixed, so go for something like I've got here, like pistol damage or something else, just something else really nice. Again, not important, can't stress that enough. Not important. This build is insane. Okay, so let me show you how to play this build. When you load into a game after save quitting, you're going to have 0 fortune stacks, which is absolutely fine. If you really do want to go and get your fortune stacks, pull out your cards, put Sweeten the Pot on an enemy, enemy so you have a bonus element, and just lay in and apply some status effects and you will get 20 fortune, but really not important because you'll kill stuff without fortune anyway. Alright, so taking this into a boss fight, one thing I'm going to teach you before it starts is that every time you throw your Rainbow Sweeten the Pot card, it's going to be a random element on impact, and that is the element that you are going to deal with your gun. So if I throw my card at the boss and I see it hit for radiation and I don't want to deal radiation, or corrosive in this case, I can just throw another one and try to get a different element so I can element match. That is something you can do if you really want to make this a whole lot more efficient, but again, you don't need to. So going into our boss fight, I'll show you how this works. Here we go. I'm going to proc my war paint like so, pull out my cards, and I'm actually going to pre-prep to make sure I've got Deadman's ready. So there we go. I have a white card and a rainbow card. I'm going to hit him with Deadman's. I'm going to hit him with Sweeten the Pot. Then I'm going to put the action skill away, and I'm just going to lay into him now by holding down the trigger on my gun. And that is the first phase. I don't know how long that was, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It's so incredibly easy, and you do this to literally everything in the game, guys. Now, when I originally posted some gameplay of this build and showed people this build, one thing I kept seeing was, is this another sticky build? Because I showed off that we have stickies, but I'm going to show you guys why that is. In a nutshell, I am a content creator, and in these build videos, if I'm not one-tapping stuff and destroying stuff in the intro, it's not going to look that great, right? So for bosses with a much larger HP pool, they're going to die all the same like every other enemy, just a little bit slower, naturally, right? More health, slower kill. If you don't want to deal with that, and you want them to die instantly, I'm showing you guys that I am on true mode, which means we have 4-player scaling. All you do is switch to stickies. You could play this entire build with stickies and play it on easy mode. I don't, because it's not necessary, but I'm going to show you guys on 4-player scaling what this build does by just simply swapping out firing mode to stickies. So I'm going to swap over here, and I am just going to fill Earl up with stickies, and I'm just going to swap mode. And just like that, with 4-player scaling, he's dead. Now, reminder, that wasn't even as many stickies as I could put in him. I could have put an infinite amount because I have infinite ammo, but I chose not to show you the power of this build on 4-player scaling. It is absolutely bonkers, and you don't need to min-max anything on here, as I've already shown you, in order to pull off stuff like this, which is just absolutely silly. I mean, I'm sitting back and watching him die on 4-player scaling, and again, it could be faster if I shot him more, but it would be overkill. Now again, day one I did have a really disgusting red tree cache build, but I just don't really like how the action skill is feeling right now in terms of just inputs and whatnot. But if you guys want to see it, then let me know in the comment section down below and I'll work on that for you. But I've just been having way too much fun with this build to stop, and I really think you guys are gonna love it too. So if you do like it, let me know in the comment section down below how much fun you're having with it. And yeah, I hope this helps you out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this build, and cache is a ton of fun as well right now. Thank you guys for watching this build. I appreciate all the support on the videos as always, and I will check you all in the next one.